We are here to bring a new type of news show.
New insights and new styles and new topics every day.
We're a news generation.
Bring news just for you. It's Thursday, February 6th here in Seoul. I'm Song Yujin, and thank you for tuning in to News Generation. Joining us this Thursday is Cheska Dainhong.
Happy Thursday, everyone!
Happy
Woohoo!
Thursday, woohoo! And Julian Kim.
Happy Thursday and good morning to everyone as well.
Happy Thursday and good morning. Now, both are here to speak on behalf of those in their 20s and 30s. So it's Thursday, which means we're going to begin with our keyword news. Our keyword news for today is Netflix. The Netflix original series, The Trauma Code: Heroes on Call, has taken the top spot on the platform's latest top 10 non-English shows chart, ending Squid Game Season 2's 5-week reign. Now, the Korean medical drama, which premiered on January 24th, secured the #1 position for the last week of January, amassing 11.9 million views. Squid Game Season 2 dropped to second place. So I want to ask our panelists, did you also watch The Trauma Code: Heroes on Call? It's going huge in Korea and obviously around the world. And what do you think has made this such a global hit?
Yeah, so I only watched the first 10 minutes of the episode last night, so I can't I don't have a strong opinion why this movie or the show is like a sensation here.
Not yet.
But so far, I just loved how fast-paced the storyline is. I think the cast is great, so I'll be happy to discuss more when I watch more of it, but I loved it so far.
Well, hope you end the show soon so that you can share your opinions more on this series. But Cheska, before we came on air, we heard that you did finish the show. So how did you find the show to be?
I actually finished the series and I actually loved it. And I actually read the analysis on why the show was so sensational to the Korean public. And here were some of the analysis for those who might be interested. There is actually no gratuitous romance line, which is very atypical of like a K-drama series.
Especially medical drama, we used to have a lot of romance lines between the characters, right?
Exactly, a doctor and a patient, you know, something along the lines. But you literally focus on the characters themselves, and the characters are so three-dimensional. And also the speed. The series actually proceeds very quickly.
Right.
The events unfold, so there's no waiting. You actually really get into what it's like to be an active trauma surgeon. And I think this is kind of important, reality. So even though the series is about a superhero and a character with a superhero ability, the events and the circumstances behind what's happening is actually modeled after the actual trauma system here in South Korea. And also the character was inspired by an active trauma surgeon here in South Korea who tried to change the system. So I think in that sense, the Korean general public actually feels a lot of hope and also catharsis for a reality that is hard to change.
Which could be one of the reasons why this show is being so loved in the country.
Yeah, I think everyone is kind of rooting for
right,
it.
right. So I watched it until episode 2. So me and Julian, we now have to watch and finish the show. And then maybe we'll get back to it once the show reaches another new milestone. And that was our keyword news for this Thursday. So we're now going to move on to our main discussion of the day. It's Thursday, which means it's time to explore the Korean wave and the global appeal of Korean culture. Take a look at the screen to find out more. For food lovers, this question has always been a classic debate: rice or bread? In Korea, bread has become more than just a snack, it's a staple for many. So much so that we now have new slang terms like bangsuni and bangdori to describe people who are absolutely obsessed with bread. With this bread craze taking off, we're seeing a surge in unique Korea-made breads making their way onto tables worldwide. Well, just looking at the VCR has made my mouth start to water, although it's been less than 5 minutes since our show started. But I want to start off our show today with a really hard, tricky question, which is, are you more of a rice person or a bread person?
No! You cannot do this to me.
I'm sorry.
No, I'm just joking. I am very much a rice person, but you know, and I'm sure all the viewers know how much I love desserts. Yes, there you go. I love pastry. I love the Korean pastries even more. And the bakery selection, I mean, the flavors here are so delicate, flavorful, and we will talk about it more today, but it's very creative.
Right. So, Cheska, although you are a rice person, you are still deeply love in love with bread?
I have deep commitments with the bread selection as well.
Okay, well, good to know that. How about you, Julian?
Well, this is one of my favorite icebreaker questions. Well, I love both. I will have to say I choose rice. Only because rice is such a really big staple item when it comes to Korean cuisine. So if there's no rice, the meal doesn't feel complete.
Oh.
So I will have to say, just because I want to feel satisfied after eating like a Korean dish, I have to go with rice.
But you still love bread, right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Just like Jessica, I'm a huge fan.
All right. So as mentioned earlier, Korean bread is gaining popularity globally. So I want to ask you, Jessica, do we have any numbers or data that really back up this trend?
Yeah, absolutely. So we all know that K-food is taking over not only people's heart, but also their palate. So with ramyeon and kimbap setting a world record in export, snacks and bread, basically the bakery area actually hit a record number as well. So let's take a look at the screen to see this growth in actual numbers. Now, if we look at the figures, K-bakery export grew by almost 20% compared to last year. And what's really remarkable is that if we look at over the 5 years, the figure almost doubled. That's almost about 200 million USD of growth. And if we look at it by country, the first K-bakery import country is United States. So they import more than 30%, followed by China and Japan. And we are actually expanding into Europe as well, which is kind of exciting. And if I actually add my very own testimonials here, living in New York, I actually saw K-bakery, like chains, growing like year by year.
Really?
Yeah. And I actually saw more Americans in these K-bakery shops enjoying like coffee and K-bakery selection. And what's even more surprising is that when I was in Mongolia, K-bakery is actually considered a luxury brand.
Really? That's very interesting.
It's very interesting, right? So imagine how excited I was when I saw like these names that are very familiar.
Right.
And people saying, oh yeah, those breads are so, luxury and they're good bread.
Wow.
Yeah, they are.
They are definitely making waves across the world.
Yep.
Then let's now talk about specifically which types of Korean bread have become the most popular. So Julian, could you tell our viewers more?
Yeah, so traditionally Korean street foods like bungeoppang and hoppang have made significant contributions to the growth of Korean bread exports. There are very iconic winter street food snacks in Korea that are beloved by everyone. Now, in Korea, most people carry like 3,000 won in cash or more just because if they see a vendor on the street, they are just going straight there just to buy one. Yeah. So while the original version has sweet red bean paste, there are many new variations of this that exploded in popularity. These include custard, cheese, sweet potato, and even pizza flavor.
Wow.
But on the other hand, hoppang is named after the sound ho ho, which is like the sound that people make when they're blowing on bread that's super hot, like.
I
So
see.
yeah, well, hoppang is originally either filled with pot or red bean or vegetables, yache, which I guess is similar to like a steamed dumpling. But just like bungeoppang, hoppang comes in flavors like pizza, sweet potato, pumpkin, even come in a spicy chicken buldak flavor.
Right.
Yeah, never tried it, but
I don't think I ever will.
Wow, very interesting.
yeah, but you can get all of these on the streets of Korea, but they're also exported worldwide, so they're very accessible to people.
Right, so Julian just named a couple of types of Korean bread that are gaining popularity globally. But to find out more, we also asked the same question to our viewers about their favorite Korean bread and also the reason why. And here's what 3 of them had to say. So our first comment for this Thursday is by Dizzy Heights 1000. The bread with cream is my go-to when I drink coffee. Toby Odie says, to be honest, I found Korean bread, even plain sliced bread, sweeter than bread in Canada. Our last comment, Tae P2Q. Have you heard of Yeongnam baguette, Polak roll baguette? It tastes so wonderful. You definitely know a lot about Korean bread. So up next, we're going to bring in a Gen Z guest from the United States to share her experience with Korean bread. Stay tuned.
NewsGen wants to hear from you. Go to YouTube and search our channel Arirang News. Click Community and leave a comment down below. Make a new type of news with us.
So joining us this morning is Erin Tiedemann, an American Gen Z. Welcome, Erin, to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. So, Erin, we first want to ask you, what types of Korean bread have you tried until now? And could you tell us how they compare to the bread you were used to in the United States?
Sure. So I've tried a lot of Korean breads, everything from milk bread to melon bread to bungeoppang, even like the salt bread and the garlic bread in Korea. I would say that the main difference between Korean bread and bread in the US is the flavors and the textures. So I would say in the US, the bread is used more for like sandwiches and toast. So it's much heartier and it's more savory than Korean bread. Whereas Korean bread tends to be more lighter and fluffier. So there's sweet filling sometimes or sweet toppings. And even I find like the savory breads in Korea are much sweeter than you would find in the US. So even like the sausage bread or garlic bread, like it tastes a little bit sweet to me. Um, and also in Korea, I would say that bread is like eaten as a snack or a dessert, whereas in the US, it's almost part of a meal. So it will be eaten with breakfast or lunch as a sandwich.
So, Erin, as you heard, today we're talking about the increase of K-bakery export. So, in your opinion, which Korean bread do you think would be the most popular among your friends or in your country?
I think that actually salt bread is the most popular. Like I actually asked my friends, and that was the bread that they by far said was their favorite Korean bread. I think it really appeals to American tastes because it is very savory and like buttery, whereas a lot of Korean breads tend to be sweeter. But actually, it's funny because Korean bread is quite popular here in the States, even though I don't live in a big city. Recently, a Korean chain opened up nearby, and I remember my friend telling me about it and saying, "Oh, we should go someday." And I said, "Oh, like what's the name?" And she said the name, and I said, "Oh, I know what that is." Like, I've been there many times, but I never expected one to open up right down the street from me.
Yeah, Erin, it sounds like you tried a lot of Korean bread, but is there any type of Korean bread you haven't tried yet, but you love to try?
Yeah, actually, a couple of years ago, or maybe only a year ago, I remember there was a bread called Pandoro bread that was very popular in Korea. It's the one that's like a cake or bread that has the mountain of like sugar on top. And I remember seeing it a lot in cafes or like on TikTok. I saw it a lot, but I never got the chance to try it. So I feel like that was one that I was a bit of a regret. I would love to try. Like it looks so cool. I feel like it looks like a snowy mountain or something.
Right, so I hope you try it out in the near future. Erin, thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you as well. Have a good day.
You
Thank
too.
you.
Right, so during our live interview with Erin, she also mentioned several standout features of Korean bread. I now want to ask your opinion.
Yeah.
Are there any unique features you'd like to introduce to our viewers who are quite new to Korean bread?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think for one, if we look at our food culture here in South Korea, as Julian mentioned, rice is sort of the staple diet. So, and we have these side dishes, very savory. So bread, baked goods are still more of like a dessert or an
Right.
after meal. So in that sense, I think that is primarily the reason that K-bakery is so flavorful.
And sweet.
And sweet, exactly. So it's more like a meal-like bread, I would say. A great example is the sweet and savory sausage bread, the pizza bun, the sweet potato filling buns, and like almond cream cheese, filling, but that has an almond meringue on the side. And we actually saw it in our viewers' comment. There is something called the Myeongnan baguette,
Right.
which is the Pollock roe baguette. So you see these combinations that you wouldn't think is like a dessert, but you apply it to a dessert and
Right,
create like a
right.
K-bakery combination.
So it's like something in the middle of a meal and a dessert.
Yeah, exactly. And also because maybe Korean diet is more savory, I think people like to heighten up the sugar and the sweetness from the dessert section as well.
Right.
So it's like you don't want to miss both. You kind of want to have a little bit of everything.
You
yeah.
want to have the best of both worlds.
Exactly, yes.
What do you think, Julian?
I think the main thing that sticks out about Korean bread the most is that it's super soft and super fluffy. I think this is just my own assumption, but perhaps it's because a lot of Koreans are accustomed to eating steamed rice with their meals, which is also very, very soft. And in many Western countries, like we mentioned earlier, bread is considered a staple meal, just like how rice or noodle is in many Asian countries. However, in Korea, bread is considered more like a dessert or a snack food, which is why it tends to be more smaller in size and slightly sweeter. Like take pizza bread, for example. While pizza is known to be a savory dish, Korean pizza bread is sweet, which is surprising for people trying it for the first time, including myself. I remember my first time trying Korean garlic bread. I was just completely flabbergasted with like how sweet it was. Because back in America, I'm used to having garlic bread that is really, really pungent, garlicky,
salty.
Yes, it has a rich velvety butter flavor with like a slight kiss of parsley. But in Korea, I don't really know what it is, but I think it's kind of like a sugary syrup that they drizzle on top of the garlic bread. And personally, I'm not a huge fan of that, but I don't want to sound like I dislike Korean bread. I really, really do. I just, coming from a different country, I guess, I'm not really sure how I feel about certain savory and sweet hybrid bread dishes. But that being said, there are many Korean breads that I highly recommend. As we mentioned earlier, 붕어빵, 호빵, they are very, very good classics that are very good. But my personal favorite is 꽈배기, which is a deep-fried Korean twisted donut that is coated either in sugar or cinnamon. So if you're skeptical about the sweet and savory combination, I highly recommend trying those three foods because they are a great gateway to Korean bread.
I mean, this just came up to my mind, but Julian is really good at describing different types of Korean bread using all those adjectives.
You should write menus for the description of the
I love food. I can talk about food all day.
You are indeed a foodie.
And then you can write like warning messages too. This might be overly sweet for those who might be not accustomed to sugar, so please choose wisely.
Great. So Julian just gave us a few recommendations. We're going to end off our show today with recommendations that you'd be curious about. So if you were to recommend the perfect bread and drink pairing, which is a lot of us really like, we always like to pair good bread with, of course, good drinks.
Good drink.
What would it be?
Yujin, you're really asking a lot of questions.
Very tricky questions
very
today.
tricky questions. It's only tricky because I have so many options.
Well, we have enough time, so could you please elaborate?
Let's start the list. Okay, I will give you two big branches of options. One, if you're kind of like me who likes a dark espresso, like a dark drink, like Americano, I would like to pair with a very sweet and savory bread, like almond cream cheese bun or sweet potato fillings. Or in Korea, we have lattes with very unique flavors like matcha or sweet potato or 흑임자, which is black sesame. Yeah, black sesame. So you have that, and then you pair it with like a salty bun, like a garlic butter or sausage roll, or even the salt bread that Erin talked about. And then you get this, what in Korea we call the perfect combination of 단짠. Yeah.
Could you please tell us what that is?
Sweet, salt, sweet, salt.
You can eat forever.
Exactly. It's a cycle that never ends. You just go into the cycle and you just follow the taste buds all over. Yeah.
So Cheska, you are recommending espresso with a sweet bread and then sweet drinks with savory bread.
Exactly, yes.
Got it. Please put that on your list. Now let's move on to Julian's list.
Yeah, so with drinks, maybe it's just my LA roots, but I love a matcha latte, and I love hot chocolate too with the bread, and also my Korean roots, I just love a good ice-cold iced Americano. So those are my recommendation for drinks, but if you can't handle caffeine, I think a tea would be nice. But when it comes to bread, just eat everything.
Try everything out.
Yeah, try everything out. Like when you go to a typical Korean bakery, you'll be shocked by the variety of all the bread that is available. So just pick out a couple that seem good and just try it out. Just cut it up in half, Korean style, and just share it up with people and just,
And then you could probably find your favorite Korean bread.
Yeah.
Exactly. Try all sorts of Korean bread. And if I could give my recommendation,
yes,
I'm more like a cake person. I noticed that Korean cafes, they have really good cake.
Yeah.
So my favorite is pairing very sweet chocolate cake with iced Americano. So I think that will be a go-to choice for many people because there is chocolate cake all over the world. But I definitely recommend you to try Korean cakes at Korean cafes too.
And Yujin, if I may add another recommendation, in Korea, because it's a K-bakery, there are some shops that actually use a rice flour instead of
these days.
the wheat flour, and they actually create a very unique texture and flavor. So I would definitely recommend our viewers to try that as K-bakery option as well.
Right, so a lot for our viewers to try out. If you have a chance to visit bread stores in Korea, or if you have a chance to visit bread franchises that's coming from Korea in your country, please try these menus and leave a comment below on what you thought. And that wraps up this episode of News Generation, but we will be back tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. Korea time. Special thanks to Cheska Dainho.
Pleasure's always mine. Thank you.
Thank you. And Julian Kim.
Thank you for having me today.
Thank you. And thank you everyone for our viewers for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow. We are
News Generation.